I've heard people say the daughter-in-law is more spicy, more hot, more into commerce than the mother-in-law. But today we're doing mother-in-law, something I've shared before. I've done a Canadian version using stuff I found here in Canada. I've done the typical or the traditional Caribbean Trinbagonian mother-in-law. Today we're doing a bitter melon mother-in-law. Yeah, this is going to be the predominant flavor in it. And what we have here is a fully mature, kind of twisted kind of thing. It's the end of summer, and this is from my garden. I've got a fully mature one. I picked it earlier today, so you know, this should go in a little quail. And this one here is a younger, not mature one, and I'll explain why we want both of them. This one is going to go into the food processor. This one is going to be sliced thinly. This one will not be as bitter. So when you're eating, we're going to have nice big slices of this, thin slices. You will appreciate bitter melon or Carilie. I've also reaped some hot peppers from my garden. So I've got Scotch bonnet pepper and fatali. We'll need a couple carrots, 2 limes, some sea salt, some chives from my garden, some garlic from my garden, and in the water here I have shadow benny or culantro. One of the leaves here needs trimming. Whenever you see those sort of burnt edges and all that there, you can get rid of that. This is the first, well, let me show you. Boom, in the rubbish. I have it in water here because I harvested it earlier today and I wanted to keep it nice and fresh for the camera. It's the first time I've been successful in growing shadow benny, and shadow benny will be called culantro. You can find it in the Asian markets and the West Indian markets. If you cannot source culantro, which is shadow benny, use cilantro or what some people call coriander. This is the sort of mix here. I may add just a tiny bit of water as well too. But mother-in-law, a different version, using Carilie as the predominant flavor. Basically all you would do, and in my case here, I don't peel carrots, I usually scrape it with my knife, and I'm gonna cut it up into smaller pieces just to make it easier for the food processor. Yeah, I'm using a food processor. You may use a blender if you want, or if you want a little bit more work, the traditional way is to chop it up really, really tiny. I'm just gonna give this a rough chop. The shadow benny is gonna get a rough chop. As I mentioned, this one is gonna get sliced, but if you allow me, what I'm going to show you here, I'm just cut off the ends of the fully mature one. We're going to cut it down the center, and this is the seed area. Using a tablespoon, we're just going to go in there and scrape that out like so. Yeah, that's going to go into the rubbish, and you want these sort of white areas as well too. Got to get rid of all of that. Yeah, see that? That is rubbish. This is perfect. We're going to give it a rough chop, and that is how that is going to go into the food processor. With everything pretty much prepped, I'm going to go in with the bitter melon, the carrots, and like I said, all I did was I gave it a little scrape. I rinsed it out. I had it in water just so it doesn't go discolored on me. I have the onions that I gave a rough chop to, and of course we need that garlic in there, so in goes the garlic. Just gonna grab that shadow benny, and that is a crucial part of this, so if you can source it, I would highly recommend you use it. I'm gonna grab some of that chive, and the chive will give it an onion garlic sort of flavor. So if you have access to chives, again, I would highly recommend that you use it. We need the juice of 2 limes. Pop it in my little device here, and I just love this thing, you know, because it makes it so easy. And while these limes are seedless, if there were seeds, they'd be caught in there. I might not have to worry about seeds at all. Grab the salt, put that salt in there. If you wanted to add a little touch of sugar, you can do that. And the last thing, this is a pimento pepper, a green pimento pepper, so a lot of flavor, and we call this flavor pepper or seasoning peppers. No heat, but the sort of flavor you're going to get from it is just awesome. Now remember, mother-in-law, and by the way, if you're not familiar with mother-in-law, you can read up about it once I make the post on CaribbeanPod.com. The recipe will be found there. Essentially, it is a side a sort of a condiment to curry dishes. Yeah, so when you're eating whatever curry, whether it's vegan or vegetarian or a meat curry, you would have this on the side kind of thing. And what it does, it gets you in the mood to eat even more. It opens up the the taste buds. That was 2 fatali peppers. They have a wicked flavor and heat, and this is 1 Scotch bonnet pepper. And I'm just, remember to wear gloves. Wash your hands with soap and water after cocoa looks and want to be touched with that hand at any point. All we're going to do now is blitz this, pulse it, and we're all set now to hit this pulse, pulse, pulse until it breaks down and we get a nice chunky sort of texture. And the reason why I like using a food processor for this, it gives me more flexibility as to the texture of it. I find a blender would easily puree it totally, and I don't want that. You will stop it ever so often, scrape the sides down, and I'll show you the sort of texture that you're looking for. And this is the sort of texture that you're looking for. I'm just going to pour it into the bowl now, because remember, when I'm done, I said we're going to have 2 different ways we're using the bitter melon. And the second way is to slice that one that I said is not fully mature yet, because that one has a different flavor profile than the one we added in here to puree. Well, we didn't puree, we made it nice and chunky. But that is the sort of texture, and I'm telling you, boy, right now, this kitchen is just smelling absolutely incredible. I need some curry right now in my life, yeah boy. With the other bitter melon, I'm just gonna cut it into pieces like so, because we need to be able to get the core out. And I'm gonna go with my paring knife, I'm gonna circular motion and cut all of that out, because I want nice circles to give it a bit of texture. And it's gotta be eye appealing as well too. Just go in a circular motion, boom, remove the center. And that is why I cut them into small pieces, so my knife has the ability to go in there. Just be a little bit careful when you're doing it, because we ain't trying to cut myself and all kind of thing for no mother-in-law. You know what I mean? And once you get all of the insides out, then you would just slice it thinly. Like so, yeah? Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me, email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. Mix that in. Hit it a little bit more salt. I'm just going to give it just a tiny bit more salt, because that bitter melon can take on salt like nobody's business. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. Today you learn how to make Carilie, or bitter melon mother-in-law, the spicy condiment similar to the pepper choker that I shared with you all not too long ago, as a side dish, a side condiment for your curry dishes. All you would do then is, if you have leftovers or whatever, let's go in here, and let's go in a bit there. If you have leftovers, or if you want to store it, it can be stored in the fridge in a glass container easily for a week. Yeah, just look at that now, boy. And I'm telling you, but remember, vent your kitchen, because while you're blending this or you're using the food processor, that baby will want to choke you. Wash your hands with soap and water after, and once you're doing the dishes, remember, once that water hit this bowl or whatever that you used, it will want to choke you. Irie, just look at it. Just look at it now. Oh gosh, look. What's up, soldiers? Don't forget to click subscribe. If you've already clicked subscribe, hit that bell notification thing. I want to all you missing out on the new videos, man. Come on, click.